Some of you may remember the long play recording albums. I actually used to listen to 45s, the little records with the big hole in the middle. Then we went to 8 tracks, then cassettes and CDs. Now we have a whole new generation of sound equipment. Look at what's happened with the internet. Who could have dreamed of the changes brought about by computer communication? Many of you purchased this product you're listening to as an e-product with instant delivery, no physical product, no box, no shipping. What an amazing process. Our most popular seminars are now teleseminars. People pick up the phone, put on a headset, and you're in the class. All 3 of my children now work for me. None of them lives in Franklin, Tennessee, where I do, but with technology, we're totally connected in the work that we do daily. This reminds me of the story about 3 caterpillars who saw a butterfly go by. The responses varied greatly. First caterpillar said, look at that smart aleck going by up there, making us feel bad, flitting around, doing what we can't do. The second caterpillar said, I really wish I could fly like that. The third caterpillar looked up and said, that guy used to be one of us. If he can do it, I can too. The response you have to change will probably be represented by one of those 3 caterpillars. Make sure that you're the one who takes an optimistic view of the change that is occurring. If he can do it, I can do it too. In 1965, computers began to go through rapid changes. We've seen them diminish in size and increase in efficiency, decrease in cost, and all those things have worked to our advantage. Recently, I heard someone describe the automobile industry in similar terms, saying that if the automotive industry had kept up with the computer industry since 1965, in the same way changes have taken place, that today a new Rolls-Royce would get 20,000 miles per gallon and cost about $2.98. Wouldn't that be great to have that happen? We can see changes that work for us in positive ways, even though they require us to make some adjustments. Take another example. In 1925, the ice business was at its peak. Everybody had an ice box. People were getting used to cool, chilled food in their ice boxes, and every morning they would have a new block of ice delivered to their house. Guess what else happened in 1925? Refrigeration came into being. People all of a sudden had refrigerators rather than ice boxes. What do you think that did to the ice industry? Well, despite what you might initially think, the ice industry today is double in size what it was in 1925. What they did was simply look at where are the new opportunities for our industry. They recognized that people would get used to chilled foods very, very quickly. They'd expect to have it all the time. That was a fairly new phenomenon, and they thought that's going to increase the demand for what we have. Now, where do you go when you're getting ready to go to the lake on a Sunday afternoon? Yeah, you're right. You're going to stop by the little convenience store, whip in there to get your food, chips, drink, and a bag of ice. That's what allowed the ice industry to double in size, even in a time when their industry seemed to be becoming obsolete. Now, how do we handle this change? The next thing we're going to look at is looking at yourself. The key to power in our careers is to first look at ourselves. The more we understand ourselves, the more we can move forward with boldness and confidence. We enhance our effectiveness in life by first being introspective. 85% of the process of having the confidence of proper direction comes from looking inward first. 15% then is the application of what you know about yourself in the proper job or business. We often get the cart before the horse in just finding a job and then making ourselves fit that job. Shakespeare said, "Know thyself, and to thine own self be true." Socrates added, "The unexamined life is not worth living." An old Chinese proverb says, "He who knows others is learned, he who knows himself is wise." Let me tell you a phenomenon that is true of most Americans. Most of us spend too much time looking at outside circumstances. Consequently, we feel we don't have control. We feel victimized. Life passes us by, and we feel like we're just hanging on. Then all of a sudden, we're 70 years old wondering how we missed all that life has to offer. Most of us evaluate our lives in retrospect. We get caught up in responding to those circumstances. Then we look back, having very little sense of control, purpose, or destiny for the future. We just evaluate our lives in retrospect, and that's not what we want. Here are some recent descriptions given to me by people as they describe how they feel about where they are. In working with a 51-year-old gentleman who people would see as fairly successful, he said this: "I feel like I've lived my whole life by accident, never having a clear plan. I've simply responded to circumstances around me." Another couple recently said, "We feel like we've been free-falling for the last 13 years that we've been married." Someone else described it as, "I feel like I'm a ball in a pinball machine, just bouncing off things, going on to something else until I hit an obstacle, and then I go off in a new direction." A very financially successful lady CPA just told me, "I feel like a prostitute. In return for a very nice salary, they've taken my heart, soul, and mind." Wow, what a horrible trade-off. That's not what we want. Any of these will ultimately cause you to feel like a victim of those circumstances. A 53-year-old gentleman told me this: "I feel like my life is a movie that's almost over and I haven't even bought the popcorn yet." Golly, what a graphic visual picture of an unfulfilled life. Here's another. A lady was describing watching her husband in his career. She said it's like seeing a butterfly caught in a spider web and then watching the life slowly being sucked out. Now that's a pretty clear visualization. Let me describe it to you in this way. Imagine that you're leaving Nashville, Tennessee, headed for Dallas, Texas. So you're driving along, the scenery is pretty, the road's nice, the car's doing well, kids are quiet in the back. Then all of a sudden you come to a bridge that's out in Memphis. Now, knowing where you're going to go upstream, get across the river, find back roads, whatever you have to do to get back on that road again headed toward Dallas. A very obvious and logical kind of solution if that were to occur. However, let's change the situation a little bit. Let's say you're just out for a nice Sunday afternoon drive. No particular destination in mind, but you're going down the road, car's doing well, the scenery's pretty, the same kind of thing. Now you come to that bridge that's out. You're going to say, "Well, we can't go that way, but here's a road. This one looks pretty good. Let's try that." So you head off on that road. Now the course may still be the same as it was before. Scenery's pretty, car's doing well, everybody's happy. Then all of a sudden you start to evaluate, is this really where we wanted to go? Now, in working with people in careers, it's not uncommon to find people who make career decisions based on that second scenario rather than the first. Not having a clear distinction of where they really want to go or what they want to accomplish, they simply respond to circumstances and go off in another direction. Now, believe me, circumstances can be positive. It's not always negative. They can be positive, but it can take you in a direction that's not where you originally thought you wanted to go. So the power is in defining clearly, what are my priorities? What's unique about me? Where do I want to go? If you're not able to define clearly where it is that you're going, you're ultimately going to feel like that victim of circumstances. It's only by developing a clear focus that you can handle the change that's inevitable. The way we handle change, the only realistic way to respond to change is by having that changeless core in us.